The punishment ended, and Lucien finally instructed the servant to open the door. By then, I had been locked in the small dark room for a full 3 hours. I heard him speak to his beloved first love. "I've already taught her a lesson, can you be happy now? Aurora? Don't try to comfort her, just give her some candy." He said this because I was slow to react, thinking I was stupid, and that I was clinging to him. But I had been reborn, and this time, Aurora would not spend her whole life tormenting herself over that candy. In the living room of Lucien's villa, a group of pampered young men sat around, their laughter echoing one after another. "Your servant has a lot of nerve," she actually pushed Eileen. "A fool has no right to fight for anything," she really humiliated herself. "I'd say it's Lucien's fault for being so popular." Lucien, while soothing Eileen, furrowed his brows and interrupted them. "Don't talk about her, I'll get annoyed. The servant they were talking about was me, Aurora. Actually, I didn't push her, it was Eileen who spilled the sweet soup that I had made for Lucien. When I was squatting down to pick up the broken bowl, she suddenly fell back to the floor. Lucien saw this, picked her up, and had someone lock me in the small dark room that I was so afraid of. Lucien didn't believe me, so he punished me. I was used to it, but it still hurt a little. And I'm so scared of the dark. I stayed in the small dark room for a long time and had a terrible nightmare. In the dream, I married Lucien as I had always wished, but he seemed to hate me. He started staying out all night, and even when he came back, he was drunk and unconscious. It wasn't until pregnant Eileen came to the door that I started crying uncontrollably. Lucien didn't even try to comfort me. He said, "I married you because you saved me when you were 7 and became stupid. I owe you a life, otherwise, how could I, as the CEO, marry a fool?" It turned out that he never liked me. But I never needed him to marry me. If he had told me he liked someone else, I wouldn't have bothered him. I cried, and when I woke up, I found myself still in the small dark room. Everything from the dream was real. I was just a little slow, not a fool. I remembered reading in a book that this was a rebirth. Because of a wrong choice in the previous life, I was given a chance to regret. I secretly made up my mind that when I was let out of the small dark room, I would no longer follow Lucien. Lucien didn't like me, and I wouldn't like him anymore. 3 hours later, with tear-streaked cheeks, I was finally released. My mother pulled me into the room and wiped away my tears. "Don't be mad at the young master. He didn't mean it." My mother has worked as a servant in Lucien's family for nearly 20 years, and sometimes, I feel like she thinks the young master is more important than me. I twisted my fingers, head lowered, and my mother seemed to sigh a little. "Who told us we're just servants? You saved the young master, and they've never treated us badly. I've told you before, you and the young master live in 2 different worlds. If you force it, the only one who will get hurt is you." Actually, she wasn't wrong. We were servants in the young master's house. I saved him back then, and it was just something I was supposed to do. I don't even really remember the incident anymore, but my mother once told me that Lucien, when he was 8, dragged me out to play. We got caught in a sudden snowstorm and were trapped in a remote place. To keep Lucien safe, I wrapped my coat around him. When I woke up, I had a high fever, and my mind was a little dazed. The delay had caused me to fall behind a little in terms of normal development, but it didn't affect my life too much. Lucien's grandfather felt that I saved Lucien's life and also caused me to end up like this, so out of duty and affection, he had to take responsibility for me. "Mom, I won't bother him anymore." Even though I liked him, I knew that love requires mutual affection, not one-sided feelings. That's why in the previous life, we both ended up tormenting each other. I'm just a little slow, not an idiot, and in this life, I've chosen to let go and let Lucien go. The next day, I didn't take his car. After getting up early, I switched buses several times before finally reaching my destination. I worked as Lucien's assistant in his family's company. But since I wasn't very quick-witted, I often made mistakes at work, so the assistant title was just for show. This job was actually forced on me by Lucien's grandfather, and Lucien had thrown a huge tantrum about it. Since I had already decided to let him go, should I resign? I searched on my phone for a long time and found many jobs that seemed suitable for me. Though slow-witted, I love snacks, so I planned to sell desserts from a street stall. With that thought, I became happier and hummed a tune while organizing my files. "Aurora, why are you so happy today?" It was a colleague from the HR department. I took out a piece of chocolate from my pocket and leaned close to her ear, whispering, "I'm leaving." She was stunned and took the chocolate, looking confused. "Leaving? To where?" "I'm going to sell desserts." I showed her pictures of desserts on my phone and almost drooled. "I don't like working here. I like desserts more." She seemed a bit puzzled. Although I didn't follow the usual procedures to get into the company, should I inform Mr. Lucien before leaving? I didn't know what she was thinking. After packing my things, I grabbed my bag and was about to leave. But just as I reached the door, I bumped into Lucien. He didn't seem happy, his face showing a "don't come near me" expression. Seeing me, his face grew even darker, and I took a step back, frightened. "Aurora, you didn't even take the car this morning, are you throwing a tantrum with me? You pushed Eileen yesterday, and I locked you up for only a few hours. Is that why you're angry with me?" I lowered my head and stared at my hands, which were nervously twisted together. Perhaps my silence pleased him. He softened his tone and said, "Grandfather told me to take care of you for life. Since I promised, I'll do it. Eileen is different from you. She's been spoiled since childhood. You need to be more patient with her in the future." I nodded. After all, I wouldn't be following him anymore. When he saw me back down, his expression softened a little, and he walked past me without another word. Once his figure disappeared from sight, I clenched my bag tightly and rushed out the door. That day, I quickly ordered all the tools I needed online and began my dessert journey. But as often happens, reality proved harder than the dream. Not a single dessert from Aurora Sweets was sold. As I ate the desserts, watching people pass by, I felt a little melancholic. Then, I suddenly remembered supermarket samples. Right. I could do that too. This way, none of the desserts would go to waste. I cut the desserts into small pieces and stood on the street, offering them to passing pedestrians. "Hi, would you like to try my dessert?" I tapped a person on the back, and they froze before turning around. For a moment, I was stunned. He was even more handsome than Lucien. He frowned slightly and gave me a quick glance. "I don't have a phone, and I don't have a number." I tilted my head, staring at him in confusion. This guy seemed even dumber than I was. "I just asked if you wanted dessert, so why mention not having a phone?" "I don't want your phone number, I just want you to eat my dessert." I handed him the dessert, and his gaze finally shifted from my face to the small portion in my hand. But he only glanced at it, not taking it. "My desserts are really delicious, you'll want to buy some after you try them," I said, biting my lip shyly. "So, do you want to buy them?" He lifted his hand, his eyes flickering slightly, and finally took a bite, right as I eagerly waited for his reaction. Then, without hesitation, he ordered 30. 30 desserts was a lot, and I wasn't sure how to pack them all. Neil saw this and quietly repacked them for me. Yes, the man who looked even better than Lucien was named Neil. His voice was so gentle, and he was also my first big client. I looked at him, eyes wide, holding my phone. But just then, my phone suddenly rang. It was Lucien calling. The moment I picked up, Lucien's annoyed voice came through the phone. "Aurora, did you sneak out again? Although I haven't strictly defined your work, does that mean you can just wander around during working hours? You have 10 minutes to get back to the office, or there will be consequences." By the time the call ended, I didn't even manage to say a word. Honestly, I didn't care about my salary anymore since I was selling desserts now. My nose felt a little sore, and tears just kept falling. Neil furrowed his brow, his sharp eyes fixed on me, before pulling out a soft, lightly scented handkerchief from his pocket. "Here, wipe your tears. Was that your boss?" I nodded, but then shook my head. He looked at me with a mix of confusion and amusement, and after thinking for a moment, he said, "Would you like to sell desserts at my company? My company is huge, and there are lots of employees. You can sell your desserts, and I'll take care of your dessert shop." I would love to." Neil paused for a second, the corner of his mouth curling into a slight smile. "Good." After all the fuss, it was already afternoon when everything was finally packed up. Aurora's dessert shop was set up at his company's entrance, though it was actually inside. Inside, there was cool air from the air conditioner, and it wasn't even hot selling desserts anymore. Neil was a good guy, and his employees were nice too. My desserts almost sold out. Aurora? The footsteps grew louder and faster, then stopped right in front of me, the sound of high heels clicking sharply. Is that really you? I awkwardly wiped my hands on a napkin while threading the desserts. Eileen, do you want to buy some dessert? Eileen looked indifferent, her eyes full of disdain. You're such an idiot, and you're actually doing business? I'm not an idiot. I muttered quietly, handing her the dessert. In my dreams, I broke them up. Lucian liked her, so I had to be nice to her. But she slapped the dessert out of my hand, glaring at me in disgust. Do you even know where this is? You idiot, selling desserts in the company? Are you out of your mind? She reached out and poked my head hard, and her long nails dug into my scalp, making my head hurt. Then she grabbed her phone and dialed a number, muttering something, giving me a look that was half smiling, half mocking. That smile scared me. It reminded me of the first time we met, when she splashed water on herself and smiled at me the same way. Lucian got so angry when he saw it and punished me by not letting me eat that night. There was also the time before when he made me tear up documents, and the time she accidentally tripped. Every time she smiled like that, I knew I was going to get scolded. I didn't want to be punished again. Eileen leaned in, lowering her voice. Is the time in the small dark room not enough for you? You want to go back there? I shook my head. No, I'm scared. She laughed, as if hearing a joke. You're such a fool. Do you know? Even the things I don't want, you don't deserve to have. I never wanted her things. My mom always told me not to take other people's things. Had I picked something up without realizing it? I frowned, trying to figure out what I might have taken from Eileen. I didn't know how much time passed, but a familiar voice suddenly called out. Aurora. This was it. I backed away behind the small table, but Lucian grabbed me by the arm and pulled me out, panting, with a face full of displeasure. What are you doing in someone else's company? He glanced at the little stall. Selling desserts? Are you out of your mind? I gave you a position where you could make money by just staying there, and you come here to cause trouble? I waved my hands. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just wanted to prove I could make money. I pulled out my phone from my pocket, wanting to show him what I'd earned today, but he impatiently grabbed it from my hands and slammed it onto the table. Why can't you sell desserts anywhere else? You had to pick a competitor's company? You really know how to pick your battles. He yanked off my apron. Do you just love embarrassing me? Come on, let's go. I don't want to. I felt a little sad, but Aurora only wanted to sell her desserts, not intentionally make him upset. Let go. Everyone turned to look, and it was Neil, with the receptionist standing by his side. Mr. Lucian, are you here to steal my staff? Neil walked calmly toward us, effortlessly removing Lucian's hand from my arm. Don't be rough with the girl. He stepped between me and Lucian. It was me who asked her to sell desserts here. Aurora's desserts are good, and my employees like them. He smiled, warm as jade, but his eyes showed no warmth at all. Lucian's brow furrowed, his lips pressed in a tight line. He couldn't understand how I could get along with Neil in such a short time. Mr. Neil, she's not like other people. If you play around with other women, I don't care, but I'm taking her with me now. Neil chuckled, his eyes growing even colder. Sorry, I don't think Miss Aurora is any different from anyone else. If you want to take her, at least get her permission first. At those words, Lucian's expression softened, and he looked at me with a determined smile. Aurora, come here. Why did Neil, who I'd known for less than a day, not call me stupid, but Lucian, who I'd known for 16 years, said I wasn't normal? Honestly, I didn't ask for much. If he hadn't called me an idiot, I would have left with him. I looked into his eyes and then held onto another person's sleeve. I want to stay. He furrowed his brow, and his expression changed almost instantly. Do you know what you're saying? He tried to suppress his anger, extending his hand toward me. Come here quickly, don't make me angry. My hand, clutching the sleeve of my shirt, tightened further, and I shook my head, my voice even more resolute. I want to stay. Whether it was the staff at the front desk or Neil, no one here would treat me like a fool. I knew my own abilities. Maybe I wasn't suited to be Lucian's assistant, but I could make delicious desserts. Aurora wanted someone to praise me, and I wouldn't have to hear those comments about being a fool anymore. Lucien dropped his hand and sneered lightly. You throw a tantrum just because I gave you a little punishment yesterday? If you don't want to come back, then never come back. When I lifted my head, Lucien was already walking away. Eileen, standing to the side, had a whirlwind of thoughts, but could only force a smile as she asked Neil, when did you get so close to Aurora? Neil gave her a faint sidelong glance. Miss Eileen, is there something you need? The charity gala next month. If you're lacking a partner, she trailed off, hinting at something. Neil interrupted her, rejecting her offer. Sorry, I haven't decided if I'm going yet. Then, turning his attention to me, he asked, are the desserts all sold out? I nodded. Neil couldn't help but smile slightly. Then I'll help you clean up, and I'll take you home later. Eileen watched the easy, familiar interaction between the two of us, fuming with jealousy, but all she could do was swallow her anger. By the time we'd finished cleaning up, Neil hadn't spared Eileen another glance, and she had no choice but to leave, seething. She channeled all her frustration onto that fool, her mind racing as she pulled out her phone, her fingers furiously tapping the screen. You can come anytime tomorrow, just swipe your face here. Neil pointed to the nearby electronic screen. The table will be set here, and we won't have to worry about it being stolen. Neil drove fast but smoothly, and I saved the last few chocolate balls in my pocket for him. Thank you, I said. He glanced at the chocolates, unwrapped one while waiting for a red light, and popped it into his mouth. They're delicious. His praise made me happy. He offered me another. You should have one too. I shook my head. I can't, I'll get scolded. Once, when I was hungry and ate some bread in Lucien's car, he told me I'd dirty his car and ordered me to eat outside before coming back in. It was winter, and I was shivering from the cold. I ate too quickly, and even choked. Since then, I never dared eat in the car again. Neil gripped the steering wheel tightly, then unwrapped another chocolate. Here, open up. At my confused look, he smiled and explained, Aurora, you can eat whatever you want in my car. We stopped near Lucien's family estate, and I grabbed my bag before getting out. Do you live here? I nodded. Are you Lucien's fiancé? Neil's confusion deepened, especially considering Lucien's appearance earlier today. He vaguely recalled hearing about Lucien having a childhood sweetheart fiancé. But if she was his fiancé, why would another man talk to her that way? I leaned against the car window. Don't say that. Lucien will get angry if he hears it. As his thoughts swirled, he only heard me speak slowly. I'm just a servant in his family. My mom's a servant too. I'm not his fiancé. If he hears it, he'll be upset, and he'll even hit you. A year ago, I'd brought Lucien and his friend a fruit platter as Mom asked. His friend teased that I was his little wife. But the next second, Lucien's face darkened, and he kicked his friend. His voice was cold, and to this day, I still remember what he said. Don't associate me with a fool. If you want to marry her, go ahead, but it's unlucky. Thinking of this, I grew anxious and leaned closer to Neil, whispering, so, please don't call me his fiancé. I don't want you to get hurt. An unfamiliar feeling stirred in my chest, but Neil smiled faintly and nodded. Okay. Lucien, speeding back, took out his anger on a punching bag for 10 minutes before the tension in his chest eased. But whenever he thought of Aurora's words, stay, a wave of irritation would rise, uncontrollably setting him off. Having been with Aurora for 16 years, he even knew when she got her first period. He still remembered when she gave him her coat during the cold winter, and how she ended up with a fever from it. He wasn't indifferent to it. But over time, he had grown tired of her slow reactions. Even his grandfather had started interfering in their matters, even treating Aurora like the future granddaughter-in-law. As the heir, if word got out that his wife was a fool, how many people would mock and gossip about him? He felt guilty and pity for Aurora, but there was a lack of love. Eileen, however, was the woman of his dreams. She was the one he loved. But why, today, did seeing Aurora so resistant make him feel so uneasy? Even watching her hide behind another man, while she was avoiding him like that, was unsettling. The phone screen lit up, and multiple messages popped up. Lucien casually glanced at them, and the anger he had just suppressed flared up again. It was a message from Eileen mentioning how Neil had helped Aurora pack up and even taken her home. Fury surged through him as he stood by the window. Not long after, a car slowly stopped in front of his mansion. Aurora, inside the car, seemed to be chatting with Neil, and from the way she was smiling, her eyes curved into crescents, she seemed genuinely happy. When I entered, it felt like a storm had hit. Lucien was sitting with his legs crossed, his expression dark, and I was so nervous I could hardly breathe. I walked softly, trying not to make a sound. Aurora. I looked up, only to see his fierce expression before I quickly lowered my head again. He sneered. Didn't you say you weren't coming back? I told you before, if you didn't want to leave with me, then don't come back at all. I just didn't want to go back to the company, not that I don't want to come home. He laughed as if he heard something amusing. Home? Is this your home? I didn't answer, staring blankly at the threads on my pants. Feeling like I had said something too harsh, Lucien scratched his head, irritated. When I married you, it was because my grandfather decided. What I actually like is. I know, I quickly interrupted. You don't like me. I'm just a servant. He froze, then furrowed his brow. That's not what I meant. I don't see you as a servant. I want to go rest in my room. Before he could respond, I hurriedly walked to the bedroom, locked the door, and sent a message. I'm home. A few seconds later, my phone lit up. Okay. For the next while, I woke up early to sell desserts at Neil's company. Because of our different schedules, I hadn't run into Lucien for quite some time. But today was different. Lucien had messaged me, something he rarely did. Most of the time, it was me reaching out to him. He had only responded with a single dot. I didn't know what it meant at the time, so I asked him. He impatiently replied, because I don't want to reply to you. Got it? Just as I was reflecting on the past, the phone rang. You saw the message, right? Don't forget to buy it and bring it over. I've written the address for you. He hung up after that. I stared at my phone in a daze. But I was at a team building event, Neil's company team building, and they included me. I was so happy, it was my first time attending a team building event. Aurora, what's wrong? The receptionist girl added some shrimp into my bowl, shrimp I love to eat. I need to leave, I stammered, afraid they might get upset if they heard. But we just started, it's only around 8. We'll finish eating, and then I'll drive you home. I shook my head. I couldn't wait. Lucien gets really scary when he's angry. I can go home by myself. I grabbed my bag and started walking toward the door. Don't go yet. Mr. Neil will be here soon. If you leave now. By the time she hurried out, I was already gone. In a panic, she quickly called Neil's assistant. I held my phone, got out of the car, and ran quickly to a convenience store. Hello, I'd like to buy condoms. The lively sounds around me suddenly fell silent. The clerk looked at me with a strange, curious gaze. I nervously gripped my phone tighter and repeated, I'd like to buy condoms. What type do you need? I don't know. What's a type? The clerk's face flushed, unsure how to explain, feeling awkward. Did your boyfriend ask you to buy them? I shook my head. Her expression suddenly became serious. Did someone force you to buy them? I thought for a moment, and it wasn't really forced. My mom works as a maid for his family, so I suppose it's natural for me to run errands for him. No one forced me, I replied, glancing at my phone. I want this type. As I picked up the bag with my purchase and rushed out, it was already 8:30. It was getting quite dark, and I stood at the intersection, unsure of which way to go. I remembered the taxi driver couldn't park here, so he was waiting on the side, but where was he? Before I realized it, I had walked off course, and the sound of strange breathing behind me made me think of terrifying monsters. I scratched my nails, feeling uneasy. I stopped, and the footsteps behind me stopped too. It reminded me of a movie I had seen, where the heroine was taken away by bad people like this. The more I thought about it, the more frightened I became, and I ran forward. Behind me came muffled grunts and the sound of something falling, then silence. I didn't dare stop, running faster and faster. A hand suddenly landed on my shoulder. Help! I swung the bag at him. Aurora. My hand was gently grasped. It's me, Neil. I blinked. It really was Neil. Then I threw myself into his arms, crying. I thought there were bad people. Neil, both amused and helpless, patted my back. But I was right, there were bad people, and thankfully, he arrived just in time. He looked down and saw a large pile of condoms on the ground under the warm yellow streetlight. His expression darkened. Aurora, you came out just to buy this? Did Lucien ask you to buy them? I nodded hesitantly, still a bit frightened. After a long silence, Neil spoke, let's go home. But I need to deliver these to Lucien. He picked them up, placed them in a bag, and tied it shut. You don't need to deliver them. Let's go home first. After a pause, he added, come to my home. He thought that if Lucien didn't appreciate her, he would cherish her instead. He really liked her. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Lucien was playing cards, his irritation growing. He slammed the cards down on the table. I'm done playing. The others exchanged glances, and Eileen looked a little stiff. What's wrong with you? Lucien glanced out the window at the heavy dark sky, feeling even more frustrated inside. Lately, he had noticed that Aurora was purposely avoiding him. Every time they bumped into each other, she seemed so happy. How long had it been since he saw her smile? He didn't know. He only knew that he regretted some of the things he had said to her before. He didn't actually mind her being around, but because of his grandfather's arrangement, it felt like he was being controlled. He didn't like being forced into things, and even less did he want to admit that maybe he was developing feelings for Aurora. Truth or dare is off the table. With that, Lucien stood up and walked toward the door. He didn't want Aurora to be treated like a joke, something to call on and dismiss at will. He dialed Aurora's number over and over. No answer. He felt uneasy and kept calling, until finally, it rang through. His face lit up. But when the phone was answered, it wasn't Aurora's voice, it was a man's voice, Neil's. He said Aurora was at his place and would be sent home in the morning. As soon as he finished speaking, he hung up. When Lucien tried calling again, the phone was already off. The shadows under the streetlights slowly blended into the night. It was summer, but for some reason, Lucien felt a cold shiver down his spine. Neil brought me back to his house, carefully wiping away my tears and even tidying up the room. Here, wear my clothes. I'll send some more over tomorrow, he said, placing the pajamas next to me. Get some sleep. Everything will be okay. Neil made all the arrangements on his own, without asking for my opinion, suddenly bringing me here. After preparing everything, he spoke softly, if you want to go home, I can take you back. I lifted my gaze from the clothes to his face and shook my head violently. I don't want to go home. Can I stay here? Okay, don't be scared. Go wash up. Maybe because I had been followed last night, I was still trembling with fear. Neil stayed by my side, holding my hand, and I slowly fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already the next morning. On the table was a note from Neil, and the porridge was still warm. After brushing my teeth, I sat there, staring at my phone. There were over 10 missed calls from Lucien. I thought about calling him back, but suddenly, I just felt so tired. Why, no matter how much I tried not to bother them, did I still feel this upset? The book said that after being reborn, as long as I stayed away, I would find happiness. Why couldn't I feel it? Was I not worthy of it? Last night, I hadn't delivered the items. Would I be scolded again? But I didn't want to be scolded, I wanted to be praised. Suddenly, the door opened. Neil had been distracted at work all morning and, realizing he hadn't been very productive, came back to his car. Aurora. He stood in front of me. Have you had breakfast? I don't want to eat. He put on an apron. I'll make you a sandwich, okay? You need to eat something. If you don't, you'll get stomach problems, maybe even frequent stomach aches. He quickly cracked an egg into a bowl, hesitating for a moment before continuing, once you eat, I'll take you home. I stood up, feeling uneasy, and softly said, He's going to scold me. He'll yell at me, scold me, and I don't want to go back. Neil paused for a moment, then said, then we'll go back later. How long would later be? He didn't know. But what he did know was that if the young girl in front of him didn't want to go back, he could let her stay at his house forever. After hearing Neil's answer, I suddenly felt like when it rained heavily, everyone was taken home by those who cared about them. But I had been waiting under the eaves for so long. And now, someone had come to take me home. I didn't go back, I stayed at Neil's place instead. Because Lucien kept calling me, Neil helped me get a new phone number. I had contacted my mom in advance, and on the other end of the line, her voice sounded a bit tired. But she said, just do what makes you happy, as long as you're content. I searched for news about Neil online. I don't understand much, but I know many people say he's very kind. Don't worry, Mom won't share your address. Over the years, you've suffered a lot with me. Our debts are almost paid off. After this year, I'll quit my job, and I'll have the money to support you. After hanging up, I cried uncontrollably. Neil said my crying sounded like a kettle boiling, but he gently wiped away my tears. I looked at him, sobbing, Mom loves me so much. He smiled and wiped away my tears. Is there anyone who doesn't love you? I peeked out of his embrace, stared into his eyes, and stammered, what about you, do you love me too? He froze, clearly not expecting me to ask that question. My heart raced, wondering if I'd made a mistake, if I shouldn't have asked, or if he'd be upset. I like you. He held my hand. I really like you. He'd been thinking about when to bring up the topic of love with this young girl. Was it because she was so innocent and her eyes so clear, or was he afraid that he was just fooling himself, dreaming a foolish dream? After all, who would shy away from something beautiful? But his feelings for her were like an endless midsummer night on the wasteland, never ending, never fading. When the breeze blew, the wild grass merged with the sky. Hearing the answer she'd been longing for, I widened my eyes and burrowed back into his arms. Is this what Mom meant by mutual affection? Love has no distance, no barriers in communication, and it makes the heart happy. I wouldn't be scolded anymore, because here, all I'd ever hear were compliments. I replied, I like you too, a lot, a lot. Even more than he liked me. At the charity gala, I accompanied Neil as his date. I was worried I might embarrass him, but he reassured me, saying, don't worry, everyone will like you. And there's so much delicious food here. A few elderly people came over to talk to him, but I was craving small cakes, so he told me to go ahead and wait for him there, he'd join me soon. But I didn't expect to run into Eileen. How did you get here? She was dressed like a princess, and I offered her the cake in my hand. Do you want some? Everyone around us was someone of importance, and she didn't dare knock over my things, only rolling her eyes. Then she seemed to remember something and walked up to me. I heard you ran away with a strange man? Not going home anymore, is that true? Her voice wasn't too loud, but the people around us still overheard and looked at us curiously. What do you mean a strange man? He's not a stranger. Neil is very gentle, and he's handsome too. My face turned red. Eileen clicked her tongue. You must be an idiot, no brains at all, to run off with a strange man. More and more eyes were on me, but I could feel which ones were kind and which were malicious. I took a step back, wanting to escape the atmosphere I disliked, but Eileen grabbed me and whispered in my ear. Aurora, you better die outside. Lucien used to love me so much, why is he going crazy trying to find you now that you're gone? It's your fault, you idiot, why are you trying to fight with me? I'll tell you, you'll never deserve happiness. Who would want to spend their life with an idiot? My face turned pale, and I struggled to free myself from her grip as tears streamed down my face. No, I can be happy. I can be happy because I have my mom and I have Neil. Miss Eileen, let go of my fiancé. Neil was radiating coldness, standing like a god, forcibly prying Eileen's hand off mine. Aurora? He raised his gaze, and his eyes, usually so warm, were now tinted with a thin layer of cold mist, causing Eileen to shiver involuntarily. Miss Eileen, I'd like to ask you to explain why my fiancé is in this state. Eileen seemed not to hear Neil's words. All she could think about was when Aurora had become Neil's fiancé. She murmured, what? She desperately sought an answer in Neil's cold gaze. Neil, did I hear that right? You said Aurora is your fiancé? So what if she is? Neil replied coldly. That's between Aurora and me, none of your business. As for you, what makes you think you have the right to treat my wife this way? I disagree. I don't believe it. Two different voices rang out at the same time. I turned around. The man's face looked haggard, as if he'd gone through a long period of unpleasant times, even his stubble had grown out. It was Lucien. There was pain in his eyes, but more than that, disbelief. Aurora, what did you say he is to you? He stepped closer, but Neil positioned himself firmly between me and Lucien. Neil, how dare you touch my woman? He gritted his teeth, raising his fist, but I dodged to stand in front of Neil. I hugged Neil tightly, closing my eyes. I didn't want Neil to become a punching bag. But after a long time, I didn't feel any pain. I carefully opened my eyes to find Lucien's face filled with sorrow. Why? He looked at me. How did you become his fiancé in such a short time? You were supposed to be. I'm not. I shook my head firmly. I'm not your fiancé. I know you don't like me. After Grandpa's arrangement, you and your friends said a lot of hurtful things about me. It's not true. I was confused, but I do like you. I wiped the tears from my face. Even though so much time had passed, every time I thought about it, I still felt sad and cried. No, you don't. I said firmly. If you liked me, you wouldn't have treated me this way. I've been hurt, I've been scared, I'm afraid of the dark room, but you always lock me in there. But I won't blame you. I won't blame you. Because you don't love me, so I understand. If love means making the other person cry in fear, then how could that possibly be love? Actually, I'm thankful to you, Lucien. It was you who took in my mom and me. I smiled through my tears. Without you, my mom and I might not be here. Years ago, my mom had racked up a lot of debt because of my dad's illness, and she even considered taking her own life with me. It was Lucien who happened to pass by in a car and said, if you have no money, then work for me. But you saved me too. Lucien's eyes were filled with anger, and he reached out with hope in his eyes. We can start over. We don't owe each other anything now. I shook my head and rejected him, holding Neil's hand. I'm happy now, and I want to keep being happy. This time, let's say goodbye properly, Lucien. Goodbye. Neil didn't say anything, because it seemed like there was no need for him to say anything now. At that moment, Lucien's back, which had once been so straight, suddenly bent. The time from summer to winter passed in just a few months. As the year drew to a close, my mom quit her job and opened a small snack shop. She even bought a little second-hand house. She said, my daughter loves snacks the most, so I opened this shop so she can eat as much as she wants. Also, near the end of the year, Neil and I got engaged. A few days before the wedding preparations, I saw Lucien. He looked so thin, almost like he was sick. I heard you're getting married, he said, his expression dim. Don't worry, I'm not trying to interfere with you. I hesitated for a moment, then jogged over. I know. He paused, struggling to speak. What Eileen did. I know it was all her doing. It was my fault. I enjoyed the feeling of being fought over, and I purposely treated you badly. He trailed off, unable to finish, but I could feel the weight of his words. Eileen is not doing well either. There had been a wave of online revelations recently, all targeting her. Now, she was like a rat scurrying through the streets. Lucien knew exactly who was behind it, but he wouldn't help her anymore. Everyone had to atone for the mistakes they made. His thoughts cleared. At the time, I thought you'd never leave me, so I hurt you a lot. Aurora, now, all I want is for you to be happy. So that's how it was. He knew everything, but at least it was all in the past now. I have a bad memory. I've already forgotten. I thought for a moment, then pulled a chocolate ball from my pocket and handed it to him. Do you want some candy? He froze, then slowly took it from me. Aurora. Neil called from behind me, and I responded. I turned back to Lucien. You should eat regular meals. You're too thin. If you don't eat, your stomach will hurt, and you'll get sick. After saying that, I ran toward Neil. Suddenly, something occurred to me, and I turned back to wave at Lucien. Lucien, I forgive you. Neil wrapped his arm around my shoulder, never giving Lucien another glance, and shut the door behind us. Lucien stood there, staring at the chocolate ball in his hand, then suddenly covered his eyes with both hands and began to sob, the sound full of despair from loss. "What's that sound?" I leaned toward the window, but Neil stopped me. He pulled me close, pressing me against his chest. "Aurora, today you should focus on me." His warm breath scorched my face as he gently kissed my forehead. "Am I handsome?" His voice was different from usual, sweet like candy with cream, a double dose of sweetness. I blushed and nodded. "Yes, you're handsome. Do you like me?" I nodded again. "I like you." His breath grew closer, so close that I could smell the sweetness of the chocolate ball he had just eaten. Eventually, I could even taste the chocolate ball on his lips. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the snowflakes gently falling outside the window. "It's snowing." Neil tapped the tip of my nose. "We'll play later." I felt so happy. Finally, Aurora could enjoy the snow and have a snowball fight this winter. The end.